Hey everybody, it's Joshua, and I wanted to do this video to talk about how I realized that my comic book hobby has gotten completely out of hand. Alright, so I think I mentioned in some other videos that as a kid I collected comic books. I actually started when I was really young. I collected rocks, then I collected baseball cards, and then I got into comic books, which ended up being the main collection of my childhood. And then I got out of it for a long time, and in 2022, this year, I don't even remember how it started, I decided to get back into the hobby of comic collecting. And I started going to some local shows, and I started going back into local comic book shops, and even bookstores that had comic books as just, one little section. And anywhere I could find a dollar bin or a deal, I was really digging in there looking for new comics, and looking for old comics, and looking for things that I had when I was a kid, or that I wanted to have when I was a kid. And then I saw new comics and new art, and getting exposed out of nowhere to variant covers that are all over the place, and so much great artwork, and I really got sucked in all of a sudden. Then, after getting my feet wet, I started learning about the hobby, which sounds a little funny to learn about the hobby of comic collecting, but there's a lot of stuff out there. I got the Key Collector app on my phone. I started cataloging my collection on Go Collect, and I got the comicpriceguide.com, and I was using all these tools to learn prices. That was after I had bought a few things and wanted to learn more of what was going on, learn about fair market value, learning about the impact of grade on the value of your book. So then I started looking at YouTube and watching these videos, watching guys like Mint Hunter and Chris over at Journos, and hearing them talk about their experiences collecting, whether it was where they were finding things, or the state of the industry, or in Journos in particular, learning about cleaning comic books and pressing comic books and turning something that's a little dirty and wrinkly into a book that looks really nice. Getting into the size of your bags, whether you're current or silver, and there's just so much stuff that I was learning and enjoying and doing a hobby. That I just thought I was getting back into something that I had enjoyed when I was a kid, but there's a lot more depth to it now that I certainly didn't remember from before. And then, let's just put this in context. When I started, I had about this many comics. As many as would go into these magazine binders. I had one shelf up at the top of my bookshelf where all of my comic books were. And then I started buying out of dollar bins, and the nice thing with a dollar bin is you get a great value per book. And the not so nice thing about a dollar bin is sometimes you'll walk out with 30, 40, 50 books in your hand instead of just one or two. So then you bring those home and you're excited, but you gotta find a home for all these books. And then I got excited about YouTube, and I started doing my own videos to put on YouTube and talk about the comics that I'd found, and what books did I open up at Ollie's, and what did I find in this sale here or there. And I did a review of these comic book sleeves, which is cool. I still think that's an awesome product, but I got excited about doing the videos and getting into that myself. And this was just kind of going on, and I think I was looking at each specific instance. I was looking at, I bought these X Factors today, and that's really cool. And then I went to this other free show around and bought this little stack, and I was looking at it in pockets. And at one point my wife started asking me some really good and fair questions, like, what's your goal in the hobby? What's your goal in doing these videos? And my first thought was, well, I'm just having fun, and that's great. But it was a really good question that needed to be asked and needed to be answered. And she also asked me, are you aware of how much money you're spending overall? Because I would have said, yes, I'm aware of how much money I spent today on comics, but then expanding that out, I don't think I was really tallying. Now, what I was keeping, maybe an Excel log of what was going on, just as part of the hobby and having fun and trying to track, but I hadn't really conceptualized how much I was investing of myself into this hobby. So then I started to realize, as we're getting closer to Thanksgiving and wanting to clean up and do stuff for the holiday, that my comics were piling up in the dining room, in this room right here, right over there in the corner. They were piling up on the table, and I realized that I had gone and bought comics, 2 or 3 times, But they were just piling up here on the table. I had gone to Ollie's and gotten some cool deals, and then I wanted to do a video about that, but I didn't have time to do that yet. And then I'd gone to thrift store and found some great stuff there, and I wanted to do a video about that. So then I just had piles and piles, and I wasn't even enjoying the books that I had bought because I so had in mind that I got a good deal, I was excited about that, and I want to do a video, I want to post it on the internet and share what I found, and maybe some people will be like, oh cool, I'll go to Ollie's too, and start going to thrift store, whatever. I was just wanting to do that, and in doing so, I had stopped enjoying what I had once I got home, and I was just creating clutter in my house, and I was continuing to spend more and more of my money and my time and my space. And then looking at that, I realized that it was all about the hunt for finding good deals, and maybe I'll find a rare comic book, and then maybe I can do a video about all the hunting that I did and the great deals that I found and put that on the internet and share that with everybody, and that'll be great. And it wasn't about me enjoying what I was finding. I was collecting because I could collect. And then sometimes I would find and want to keep a book because the book was valuable, but not because it was particularly valuable to me. And then I thought, maybe I'll be able to sell these books. I'll buy it here for $1, but it's a $5 book or a $10 book or a $50 book. I'll be able to sell it, but I don't have an eBay account for selling things. I'm not used to doing this, so that's a little bit of a disconnect there. And that's not a good reason for me to be doing a hobby necessarily. So last weekend I had the great idea, and I was actually really excited about it. I'm like, I'm gonna pull all my comic books out. I'm gonna pull all the ones off the shelf. I'm gonna pull them out of the corner. We're gonna get them off the table. I'm gonna have my girls come and help me sort them all out. And as we were sorting, that was when it started to hit me like, I have a lot of comic books. I can hear guys on YouTube talk about their massive collections, but that's separate. That's you and your style and what you want to do. And I realized for me, I had way more books than I thought I had. And I thought, I'm going to find a lot in this while I'm sorting that I want to sell. And that stack was not that big. I'll actually show you. Went through all of my stuff and I identified this box that I wanted to sell. That's a pretty small amount of this overall. So at that point, I started to realize I have a problem. I am getting caught up in this hobby. I'm getting caught up in buying. I'm getting caught up in spending my time and spending my energy and caught up in the videos, and it's really not being what I want it to be, which is something to really enjoy and have fun. And one of the biggest realizations that I was able to express, even to my wife, was looking at the giant pile of comics on my table. I realized this is not bringing me joy. It actually felt like a weight. To be able to stay in there and look and see how many things I had and how much of myself I've put into it, it was just a weight. And so then I had to stop and really think about it. And I'm still going through that process, and that's when I formulated I really want to do this video and talk about my feelings of realizing this is out of hand. So what do I need to do now? This is the question where I've been working through what it is, and I'm still working through it, to be honest. I know I need to trim back. This is too much overall for me right now in the house. But to be honest, of this that's on the table, I don't know what I want to get rid of. I already have. So right here, this is my stack of comics for myself and actually my younger daughter. She grabbed a bunch for her too, of comics to read and see if we really like them and see if we want to keep them or not. So that's a pretty hefty pile, but that's in that trim stack, right? But I need to be able to figure out, what do I really want? Do I want all of these Spider-Man books? So like, For example, this one. This is a really nice Todd McFarlane cover. Not a key, nothing special. Picked it up for $1. That was great. I love Amazing Spider-Man. And I've been thinking about that one as an example, which is different than one that I picked up at $1 the other day. This great Eric Larson cover, Sinister Six. I really like this one, so I would keep it. Here's another non-key, but this was a fun one. This is one I had from when I was a kid. I really like this Mark Bagley cover. I like the story, so that one's not going anywhere. But I gotta be able to sort that out, and it's tough to do when you're applying it to a big old pile of comic books. Once I start to pare it down, I've got to figure out a good way of selling. Now, I had a yard sale earlier this year, and the comic books did really well. It generated a lot of interest at a yard sale, and that's what I'm planning on doing with this box that's over here. It's winter, it's a little bit weirder, but maybe I can hit this kind of pre-Christmas rush. Hope that somebody wants to get some comics for their loved ones. But I don't know how well that's going to move. Certainly not, maybe not at the prices that I want. We'll see. It was hit or miss in the yard sale, but I learned a lot that time. I do want to, spend some time setting up and learning how to use eBay and seeing if I can sell off the things that I'm ready to move on through that outlet. And then I also need to figure out a space budget. Like I said, this is a lot to put in my house. We have a lot of bookshelves, but they're full of books right now. And the space on the bookshelves is still just this size. I've got all of these. I have my DC box. I got my Spider-Man box. I got my X-Men box. All this has got to go somewhere, and it's got to get off the table so we can eat our Thanksgiving turkey right here. But at a big level, I think the most important thing is I need to own my hobby, and not for my hobby to own me. This can be a really addictive hobby to get into, and I think a lot of hobbies are, and that's probably part of the danger of hobbies overall. Like, they're fun, and I think everybody should have one and enjoy it, whether it's this or working out or marathons, which I totally don't get. That's fine if you like them, but running to me is just boring. Or if you're into playing basketball or golf or fishing, that's another one on my list, right? I love to go fishing. But this one, for whatever reason, I think because it's a collecting hobby, it's really addictive, and once you get into it, you can find great places to really get that fix hard if you go to the right dollar bins. But I think that's a big deal and something to talk about. So I think this is a good thing to discuss in the comments for this video is, do you have a hobby that maybe has its grips in you instead of you having your grips in it? If you're experiencing that or have experienced it, and how did you get to a point where it wasn't in control of you so much and you were able to enjoy your hobby again without being too deeply entrenched in it? I would love to read that. Let's talk about what I've learned through this whole process. I've learned that I love treasure hunting. I knew that about myself before because I've always been one to love going to thrift shops, love going to used bookstores and things like that, and really rifling through items and trying to find cool stuff. I've always loved going to yard sales. It's great. So the act of going and trying to find things is really exhilarating sometimes, especially when you find that something you're like, whoa, right? So I love that. I also found out, and this was one of the surprises, that I really enjoy making the videos. I like thinking through the content. I like doing the filming. And then even more surprising, I like doing the editings. I like, making the cuts and putting the music on there. I use an old version of Sony Movie Studio, but it works great, and I have a lot of fun doing it. So that was a take home from this. I know that I'm not just going to sell all my comic books and run away. I'll still go and enjoy and try to find things. And I know that I want to still do videos, but I may do different kind of videos or try to figure out a different type of content or outlet that really gets into, what do I enjoy doing and what's a good way to do it. And my wife asked that great question, like, what's your goal of doing the videos? And I want to be able to answer that question. Like, my goal is to share this type of information or inspire people to think or do this way, or whatever it is. I would like to be able to answer that question. So that's something I'll be working on to figure out. It's all good. I'll figure it out. And if you guys have a hobby that you're stuck on real hard, I hope that you figure it out too. And I'd love to talk about it in the comments. All that being said, I do want to share some of the cool things that I've found in some of the last events that I went to or other things. Our local comic shop does an event with some regularity now where their warehouse goes up to the local mall and they do a 3-day event. The first day it's $3 for everything, second day is $2, third day is $1. So I went and I did that. I got a lot of like under 200 X-Men. That was a pretty neat find. I grabbed this one on the $3 day. It's not a perfect copy, but I think it's pretty great. What else did I grab? Oh, on that one, on the $1 day, I got this, and I wouldn't have known that this was a particularly significant comic book if I hadn't been watching other guys on YouTube. But first cover appearance of Jubilee. So for me, and this is now my copyright, I'm not trying to flip this. This is just a cool comic book, and for anyone who grew up in the 90s, Jubilee is a fun character. Oh, there's another one. On the $3 day, this was probably the find of the day. Black Knight #1. Very cool. I picked it up to flip, and then the more I held it, the more I realized, like, that's a pretty sweet cover. I like it. I'm gonna hold on to it for a little while, see what happens with the value of this book. But that was at the $3 event. I also did that first video about the IDW Ollie's packs, and overall my conclusion with the IDW was, yeah, not so much, not a big deal. But Ollie's also does like Marvel and DC packs, and they come in bags that look like this. We got 5 comic books. I think they're $5.99 for 5 books. So pretty good deal at about $1.20. And in those packs you can see inside of them. When I went in not the last time, it was a couple visits to Ollie's ago, but I bought a handful of those packs because I saw some neat books in there. This was the coolest, a Ghost Rider #1. That is an awesome book, and in that pack, I want to say this thing has like 1 spine tick. It's in great condition. So that was a super deal out of there. Other ones from the Ollie's packs, I grabbed this X-Men 193 was in one of those bags. First continuity appearance of Firestar, which was, again, being a 90s New Mutants X-Force guy, and also New Warriors, right? Firestar was a pretty cool one from my childhood. So, don't let your hobbies get out of control. With comic books, go and find the stuff. I've been thinking about whether I want to go to the next big 3-day sale that our local comic shop puts on. And it's kind of hard to resist when you can find so much great stuff. But I also don't want to go and give myself the temptation to buy tons of stuff that I don't need and I don't have a sales outlet for yet. So I'm trying to figure that out, but I just wanted to share that because I started doing these videos and I was starting to ramp up and enjoying doing comic book videos and enjoying this hobby and sharing and being part of maybe the YouTube community as far as comic books goes, but it's pretty saturated. There's a lot of guys that are already awesome and are already a lot of fun to watch. So, go watch their videos. If you like mine, watch mine too, and that's great. But what I really wanted to talk about again was just this experience of realizing that my hobby got out of control. And if anyone wants to talk about your hobby, slap it there in the comments and let's start up a conversation and see if we can help each other out. I said in one of my other videos that when you go out with comic books in this hobby, I found it's easy to meet other people who are in the mood to make friends. And so whatever your hobby is, go do it, enjoy it, stay in control of it, and while you're out there, make a new friend and try to make your world a little more of a pleasant and happy place. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate everybody who's been out there and watching these videos. Maybe this will be the biggest one yet. Who knows? It's certainly, I think, the most important discussion to have. So thanks everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.